description box, you see the title, and yes, it is true. Enzo Amore of Enzo and Cass has been, of Enzo and Big Cass I should say, you know, how you doing kind of deal, has been fired, released, let go from World Wrestling Entertainment. Now I do apologize at first if there's any stream interruptions, if the stream abruptly ends, if there's any bad connection, so I do apologize about that at first. But yeah, Enzo Amore, who came into WWE, is part of a tag team with, I guess, longtime friend, real life friend, Colin Cassidy, Big Cass as he's known, has been released, has been fired from WWE. And this firing, release, if you will, stems from rape allegations from, I can't think of her name right now, but from someone on Twitter. And you can get most of the information from NoDQ and RingsideNews.com and PW Insider, and I'm pretty sure PWR, Pro Wrestling Report. But yeah, this woman apparently has come out and said that Enzo Amore had raped her late last year, around I think October or something like that. And now it's only coming to light. Now I can understand some people might be defending Enzo and saying, if that was the if this happened back in October, why wasn't it addressed then? Why is this woman coming out and doing this now? You know, and some people could say that maybe, and some people probably defending Enzo and saying that if this is true, and why wasn't it brought up in October when it happened, or at least in November? You know, some might say that this woman's only trying to get money, or if she's a former girlfriend of Enzo, she's trying to get even for him breaking things off with her. We don't really know. But unfortunately, the point is, or the after effect of this is, Enzo is no longer part of WWE. But what's crazy about this as well is, as far as I know, I'm pretty sure it's happened before. I mean, he's not the first one, and actually he's not really the first one, but it's like, it hasn't happened since 1995 as far as I know, that a current champion was let go. See, Enzo, at the time, was the reigning Cruiserweight Champion, whether you liked him or not. He was actually a two-time, three-time champion or something. He won it from Neville. He was actually a two-time champion, because he won it from Neville, he lost it to Kalisto. So yeah, he was a two-time champion, as far as I know, two to three-time champion, I believe. But now he is no longer part of the company due to some rape allegations brought forth. Yeah, he is no longer part of the company because of that. And I'm sure a lot of people, and again, like I said, I'm sure people will defend him, because Enzo does have fans, and people will probably say that if this was true, you know, if this is true, then why wasn't it brought up sooner? Why is this woman now waiting to do it now? And again, some might say she's probably just looking for money, a quick payday, some money. Maybe she's vengeful, she's held a grudge against Enzo. We don't know. And maybe she was waiting for possibly his biggest payday coming up to bring it out. We don't know. You know, a lot of people can ask these questions. Now, what's ironic is, if Enzo is innocent in all this, then there is a chance WWE could bring him back. There's no doubt. Right now, the only reason they're firing him and letting him go is because they don't know what's happening. And it's kind of crazy, you know? It's kind of crazy that within the past few months, two of the top stars in the Cruiserweight division have been either suspended indefinitely in the case of Rich Swann, or now recently fired. It's like WWE doesn't know what to do with the cruiserweights. You know, you want to put your cruiserweights and try to make them, give them their own brand. You want to give them their own show and stuff like that, and that's great. More power to you, but right now, this is not a good look for you. This is not a good look for you whatsoever when it comes to your cruiserweight division. Because, you know, it's one thing to suspend and kind of rework the situation with Rich Swann, with a, okay, it's one thing to rework the situation with Rich Swann and kind of work around that and fix that. That's one thing. But when you have your current champion involved in a storyline, in a rivalry, if you will, with someone like Cedric Alexander, and part of this rivalry involves one of the strongest women on your roster, Nia Jax, and all of a sudden all this goes down, it doesn't look good for either party. Because one, it makes Nia Jax look like a fool, because she ends up being associated, because WWE decides, hey, we're going to put you in a storyline with Enzo, similar to what we've had in the past with other superstars, men and women. It makes her look foolish, because now all of a sudden they either have to drop it like it never happened, either have to address it in a way they could play it into storyline, like she found out something about Enzo and she just decided that was it, I'm not going to be around this guy. They got to do something. They got to do something, and currently right now they're in a bit of a pickle, because they don't know, because obviously they need to really address the situation tonight on 205. They need to address it. They either need to come out and shoot straight and say, this is what happened, this is why Enzo is no longer with us, he's no longer champion, why we're going to have a battle royal, or why we're going to have a tournament, or whatever they're going to do. They need to come up with some kind of solution that fixes this problem. Because you can't tell me that they expected this to happen. You can't tell me that they expected to take the current Cruiserweight Champion and fire him from the company because of these accusations. I mean, this is what happens when they don't have someone at the helm. Someone that's going to take responsibility. Some will probably come out and say that Vince being in charge of 205 Live pretty much is what caused a lot of this to happen. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. It probably wouldn't have mattered, because, let's be honest, what they're trying to do to 205 Live is just pass it off as, and I know I might get some flack for this, they're trying to pass it off as another ECW. And we saw what happened there, and the same thing's happening here. Basically a lot, and okay, and what, sorry about that, the stream got interrupted there for a brief period, I don't know what happened. But like I said, a lot of the, what I was trying to say is, WWE, I think, is treating 205 Live as if it's like ECW, and when it first started. And we saw what happened there. And and some people can blame Vince for being in charge, and maybe that's the reasoning things are happening the way they are, and stuff like that, and that's completely fine. That's you're entitled to your opinion. But here's something I may have known. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but it seems that these cruiserweights are more independently contracted than a majority of the superstars. And when I'm talking independently contracted, more so than the other superstars, I'm talking about the fact that maybe it's me, maybe it's just me, but it seems they have some kind of clause in the contract that allows them to perform in other independent promotions, just not televised. Again, maybe it's just me. Again, maybe it's just me, but it sounds like they allow these superstars to perform elsewhere when they're not doing 205 Live or when they're not scheduled to do house shows. So you could end up seeing them on several independent shows across the country, if not across the sea. And if that's the case, hold on. And if that's the case, then WWE has no one but themselves to blame. Because if you're going to create a Cruiserweight division, you're going to create a show centered around said Cruiserweight division, then maybe, oh, I don't know, maybe you should, let's say, make sure those Cruiserweights are used more than just once or twice a week. Make sure that they are sealed, signed, and delivered for your company. In other words, not allowed to perform anywhere else. Thus, you can keep an eye on them. I mean, when they put Enzo in this situation, all it did was free him up, more so than he was. You could probably say, oh, well, he was always on house shows and all that. Yeah, but when he wasn't, he was freed up. There were weeks on Monday Night Raw where he wouldn't be there, even though he was the champion. He'd be freed up to do whatever he wanted. I mean, why do you think TMZ kept doing stories on him? Why do you think he kept getting into so much trouble? Thrown off buses, stuff like that. Because the guy was too much of a freelancer. He liked to do his own thing. And that pretty much hurt him in the long run, and it hurt the WWE, and it's hurt the Cruiserweight division, probably more so than anything, because now you have your Cruiserweight champion no longer with your company, and you're pretty much stuck in a pickle to where you either have to do another freaking Cruiserweight tournament, which I'm pretty sure some fans will be happy to see if you allow the Cruiserweights to do what they know how to do best, just like you did in the Cruiserweight Classic. Or you have to come up with some kind of scenario on Sunday that pretty much determines, hey, who's going to be Cruiserweight champion? You know, I've heard some people suggest maybe doing a Cruiserweight Rumble match. Yeah. How many Cruiserweights do we have? That's kind of hard when you don't have many Cruiserweights. The point is, WWE has pretty much put themselves in a bind right now because with the firing of Enzo, and again, we don't know if it's well-deserved, a well-deserved firing and release, because we don't know if these accusations that this woman put out are true. Because like I said, there will be people that will point out the fact that if these accusations are real, if this is all true, why didn't they hear about it back in October when it happened, or back in November? Why did this lady wait till now? And when people point that out, people will basically point out the fact that this woman, maybe all she wants is money. Or she wants to get even with Enzo because maybe he dissed her, or he dumped her, or he said something. I don't know. We don't know. But the point is, I look at it this way, if these accusations turn out to be false, Enzo will be back with the company. But if he gets back with the company, if this is false, then the company's going to have to, the WWE is going to have to put him on a leash. In other words, they're going to have to make sure that he is watched day in and day out, and that he doesn't make the same crappy mistakes he's made before. Because look, it's great you want to go out there and brag that, hey, I'm living my dream, I'm working my dream job and all that. That's fine. That's fine. Go ahead. Go ahead and do that. And if you want to, but don't do it in public. Do you think the WWE likes the fact that he wore the Cruiserweight Championship outside of the company? No. No, they probably don't. I mean, true, it might have been good advertising for the Cruiserweight division and everything, but he was acting in a way that WWE didn't find appropriate. The point is, if Enzo comes back, should these accusations be false, they're going to have to put Enzo on a leash. They're going to have to put him on a leash. They're going to have to give him some borders, some barriers, you know, of what he can do, what he cannot do. Because if they don't put a leash on Enzo, they don't kind of barricade him to the point that if he's allowed to come back, if these accusations turn out to be false and not true, they are going to have to do, all I can say is they're going to really have to keep an eye on Enzo. And if that means putting him on SmackDown, fine. If that means putting him back in NXT, fine. If that means putting him on Raw and putting him back with Big Cass, fine. Because yes, even though he was with Big Cass and he would still run his mouth at times, guess what? He was a little less subtle. He was a little less braggadocious, if you will. He was able, in a sense, to be under control because he had somebody that he knew could help keep, the WWE knew in real life behind the scenes, that could keep him under control, can help guide him and make sure he didn't make any mistakes. And that was Big Cass. But when Vince and Kevin Dunn, let's be honest, it was obviously their idea. I'm not saying it was Triple H's or Stephanie's. I'm not saying Triple H or Stephanie were involved in the idea as well. But when Vince and Kevin Dunn decided, yeah, you know it'll be good. I see Big Cass as the next Diesel. And the next Kevin Nash. So let's split him and Enzo up, do a brief little feud, have Enzo get squashed, and then focus on Cass. Because he's the future. He's money. He's our Universal Champion. Yes, because this is 2018. And again, I'm not saying that it was just the two of them. I don't know who else was in on it. But the truth is, I think the biggest mistake that kind of led to all this going down is when they separated these two as a tag team. That's when it all went to crap. When you separated these two as a tag team. And more so, when you separated the trio that was known as Cass, Enzo, and Carmella. When you did that, and you didn't bring Carmella up with them, that pretty much sealed the deal. Well, didn't totally seal the deal, but that pretty much spoke volumes at the fact that, hey, guess what? Enzo and Cass are going to go downhill from now. To me, I think it was I think when they brought up Cass and Enzo without Carmella, that should have been the warning shot. That should have been a sign and a signal and a warning signal right there that things were not going to turn out right. And guess what? Last year, when they decided to break up Enzo and Cass, a year after they came up to the roster together without Carmella, that pretty much should have been the indication. I mean, with all the reports and everything that, oh, they would get the Raw Tag Team titles, what happened? They didn't get squat. They got shots all right, but they didn't get squat. And when Enzo went out with an injury, shouldn't have made sense if Cass was gone as well, so you can bring him back as a tag team. No, what did WWE do to further stick the stake into the heart of an entertaining tag team, a tag team people loved? What did they do? They twisted that stake even more so when they decided to focus more on Big Cass. So that when Enzo finally did come back and it looked like you'd get Enzo and Cass and we'd finally get them as tag team champions, they decided, no, we're not going to do that anymore and we're just going to start focusing on Big Cass. Big mistake, in my opinion. Very big mistake. And you know what? I bet you Colin Cassidy knows this. And I'm pretty sure Enzo Amore, Eric as his real name is, knows this as well. That when they got split up, that was probably the biggest mistake WWE could have ever made. You had a gold mine as far as tag teams go. You had the future of tag team wrestling for Raw, SmackDown, overall WWE on your main roster right in the palm of your hands. And you decide to split them up. Why? Because the New Day, you didn't want nobody outselling the New Day? Look, New Day wouldn't have been hurt by the merchandise selling of Enzo and Cass as a tag team. But no, instead, you decide we're going to break them up for no reason. Because, oh, we want to focus. And why? And you decide you're going to break them up for no reason. And why? Because Vince wants to focus on Colin Cassidy as his next big main eventer, as his Diesel of this generation. I mean, what was Vince planning to do with Big Cass? Huh? Have him dye his hair black, grow a goatee, put a singlet on him, and then put Big Cass across and basically say, now your finisher is the jackknife powerbomb. Instead of, like, let's say, what was it, the big boot or whatever it was he had, that now he's suddenly going to have the jackknife powerbomb because Vince wants to have another Diesel? It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. And I think Vince hopefully is realizing the mistake he made, because he just let go, due to legitimate or false accusations of rape and sexual assault. He just let go of somebody that could have made him a lot of money in tag team wrestling, and if given the chance to be pushed to the top outside of the Cruiserweight, instead of being part of the Cruiserweight division, could have made him a lot of money all the way around. But he didn't do that. He didn't do it because he was fascinated on having Big Cassidy as his next big deal, his next Diesel guy, if you will. Guess what? With all due respect to Kevin Nash, he wasn't that big of a draw as champion. And if you think Big Cass was going to make up for that, you're wrong. The point is, folks, what happened with Enzo here is a disappointment. It is sad. But WWE has no one but themselves to blame, really. Because, one, they started this downfall when they brought up Cass and Enzo without Carmella. They continued to twist it even further. They decided to stick the knife even further into their backs and into the hearts. When after Enzo went out with an injury, instead of taking Big Cass off along with them so you can bring him back as a tag team, they decided to focus more on Big Cass. And then, if that's not enough, when you bring Enzo back, you first of all keep him in sort of a manager's role, and then you finally decide to put him back as a tag team. And if that's not enough to kind of continuously twist that knife in the back and in the heart, you decide after WrestleMania, you're going to break, a little months after WrestleMania, you're going to break them up as a tag team so you can focus on Big Cass because Vince and Kevin Dunn look at him as the next Diesel. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say Enzo doesn't deserve a lot of the blame. Enzo pretty much should have known better. Yes, he can go out and brag to family and friends, hey, I'm living my job, look, I'm the Cruiserweight champ, they're going to go with me in the Cruiserweight division, that's fine. But the point is, Enzo, if you're watching, whether these accusations are true or not, and if they're not true, and you go back, Enzo, WWE's going to have to put a leash on you. They're going to have to keep a bird's eye on you because you have the potential to be a great star in this business. But you keep acting like, oh, I don't have a care in the world, I can do whatever I want kind of deal. It's not going to help you in the long run. It's not. And obviously right now is a good evidence of that. I mean, again, Enzo does deserve a lot of the blame because he keeps going out there and bragging and doing this and being controversial, causing nothing but causing nothing but trouble with his mouth and his actions. And if these accusations turn out to be true, I don't think the wrestling community, the wrestling business, is going to want anything to do with him whatsoever. I don't even think any sports entertainment business, be it mixed martial arts, wrestling, is going to want to have anything to do with him, period. He's going to be blackballed because of this. But if these accusations turn out to be false, then I do see him potentially going back or being brought back. But I see him being brought back almost on a probationary period, if not on a leash. In other words, keep WWE keeping an eye on him and making sure he doesn't screw up again. But we're going to have to wait and see, folks. So, unfortunately, right now, WWE is kind of putting themselves in a bind because they fired the champion before the Cruiserweight Champion before the Rumble. Instead of letting him drop it maybe tonight on 205 Live or at the Rumble and then letting him go, now they got to come up with a solution. What do? Do they do a Cruiserweight Battle Royal at the Royal Rumble? You take 6 Cruiserweights or 4 Cruiserweights and do it? Or do you do another tournament like the Cruiserweight Classic and maybe let the Cruiserweights do what they did there and show the world what they can do? We'll just have to wait and see, folks. But unfortunately, right now, as we speak, Enzo is no longer part of the company due to these accusations, and WWE is without a Cruiserweight champ, and they got to come up with a solution either by either having a battle royal or some kind of matchup tonight or at the Rumble to crown the new champion. If they do a tournament, you know what? Here's what I look at. Do it similar to the Cruiserweight Classic and have it culminate at WrestleMania 34, I should say. Have it culminate at WrestleMania this year if they're going to do a tournament and crown the new champion there. But that's all I'm going to say, folks. Maybe, I know some fans will be like, hey, I know some hardcore fans will be like, hey, maybe this will bring Neville back. Maybe it will. We don't know. But let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like. What are your thoughts on this situation? I'll talk to y'all later. Thank y'all for watching live and post live after it's been uploaded. And I'll talk to y'all later.